Hello and welcome to the Echo Chamber podcast. My name is Tony Groves and today is our first time we've had to cross the border to do a podcast. As always, I'm joined by my co-host and former border fox, now border badger, Martin McMahon. Martin.
Oh yeah, we were in Dundalk. Tony said, come on, jump in the car, we're going to the airport. And then we headed out past the airport. I go, where are we going? Tony says, into the boot of the car. We're heading for Dundalk.
I've no sterling or anything. Yeah. More importantly, we're delighted to be joined by writer, disability campaigner, founder of Profound Ireland and mother to two beautiful boys, Tracy McGinnis. Tracy, it's great to see you on the podcast. We've been a long time getting this one done, and thankfully we were able to come to you under better circumstances than when we started this podcast 4 months ago. It's great to see you settled in a lovely home with the two lads.
Thanks for coming out here. Great of you to actually make it mobile rather than me having to come to you since Brendan is still bedridden. I appreciate that greatly.
Not at all.
Greatly.
It's wonderful to come and actually and see, because as I said, we spoke before, things were a lot more tenuous, and you've been through a lot, and hopefully this is the start of more security for you and the boys.
I hope so. Yeah, thanks.
And the place here is absolutely lovely. And actually, we're sitting here in a room, the fire is on, it's good. You wouldn't even know you were in Dundalk. It's like a normal place here. It's really nice.
Remember, everybody, he said it, not me.
Yeah, look,
I like my knees.
I'm not editing anything. I suppose what I'd like to ask you is, because we had conversations previously about you're a mother, but you're also a full-time carer for your son who has severe disability. You give so much service to him, but you also help lift the burden from the state who are supposed to supply these services. There's a value attached to that, and yet it's not really given enough credence in the current situation. And I know we're talking this in the backdrop to the state talking about finally ratifying the UN's Convention on the Rights for People with Disabilities. Do you want to give us your thoughts on that?
On the UN, on the ratification of...
Yeah, that's as good a place as any to start.
I'm cautiously optimistic, I guess is the way to put it. I want to see what, if any, reservations are going to be put on it, and once it is ratified, there's another step to it, and it's my personal opinion as to why I think it's taken so long for Ireland to ratify it, and that has to do with the fiscal aspect of ratifying it. It's going to take funding to uphold the rights of people with disabilities, their families, etc. Having said that, I'm 100% in agreement that those finances need to be put in place. Full stop. There
is one thing ratifying it, but then there is, it's the same with the children's referendum where the country voted for children's
children's rights,
and then pretty much it's gone largely ignored since then.
It has.
So, ratification is one thing. Is it going to take legal actions to enforce the rights that are ratified then? That's the question. Is it going to take legal actions to get the rights for people with disabilities?
Do you know what, Martin? I think it is. I hate to say that, and I don't want to be pessimistic. I think I'm not being pessimistic. I think I'm being more realistic. I do think I'm an optimist overall, and those of you that you know me, I am. Having said that, I think it is going to take some pushing once it is ratified for that equality to actually be given.
Yes. Well, it's not really given, it's fought for. You have to wrestle it.
Yes, but we shouldn't have to. Do you know, just like the children's rights, yes, it was passed, but how many children in this country are are suffering and are in poverty level,
Oh, well,
are homeless.
It has risen since
do you-
since the poverty levels for children has risen enormously since that referendum was passed. So there was literally no point in having that referendum at all.
Right. So I think your question and your point really about, is it going to take legal action? I think the answer is undoubtedly, disappointingly, yes.
Well, you got to remember, and we're 24 hours or 36 hours from when the state finally said that they're going to do something about the Eighth Amendment. The UN has had findings against Ireland for its cruel, torturous treatment of women on healthcare and reproductive rights. And we've told the UN several times to take a hike when it came to get their nose out of our business, because this was our constitution. Now we're going to ratify something, and I think you hit on the key word you said. You said the fiscal impact, because let's tell the truth here, that's where it's gonna come down to how much is this going to cost? You know, we'll have the
show. Where's the money coming from? This is Simon McGarr said it to us. Was it Simon?
No, Paddy Cullivan.
Paddy Cullivan said it to us about Damien English. You know, that as soon as you say anything to
Damien English is sent out with a microphone to say, where are you going to get the money for that? And you know, so you've hit on that. That's crucial here.
Yeah.
So what you mean is, what we really need is an understanding of the public that when it's ratified, that it's not just a declaration, that the words actually mean something. They're enforceable. There's checkpoints to make sure it's been done, and there's a public awareness campaign to raise these things. I'm probably even less optimistic than you are, Tracy, but I'm trying. I'm trying to be optimistic.
Well, you see, Tony, it's like this. Those of us that are campaigners and advocates for disability rights, we're going to have to then, once we have that ratified, it's a tool for us to then go, look, we have this enforceable, as you said, right now.
Yes.
And it needs to be followed through.
But but that leaves it now to the individual, and as we'll say, like yourself, you're a carer, a full-time carer. So where would somebody who's a full-time carer get the time, the energy, and never mind the finances to take on the state to enforce what is yours by right or what is your son's by right? Exactly. So this brings us back, and we've spoken about this before, and it's actually on the agenda in the tracker mortgages, is class actions. The only way to really ratify the rights of those fighting for their rights is to allow class actions, so that it's not one individual against the force of the state.
I absolutely agree with you there. It was only last year when I found out that class actions actually aren't in existence here in Ireland.
You can't take a class action in Ireland.
No, but maybe that's what needs to be changed first. And then, there is a very good disability rights solicitor, Gareth Noble. Sorry to mention you there, Gareth.
Yeah, brilliant.
Without permission, but anyway, that would be an interesting conversation to follow up with him, as this is his,
That's
forte.
His yeah.
So, I think that's what's going to end up having to happen, because we are, as carers, generally speaking, exhausted 24/7. Yeah. I just happen to be one of those people that, in my delirium, decides to advocate as well, because I'm so tired.
But if you weren't writing and blogging and constantly putting that out there, that probably. We came in, for the listeners, we walked in past Tracy's car for her son for his access with the wheelchair, and it's a lovely vehicle outside.
Yeah. And
that is down to the care, the work that you put in on actually the writing, more so than anything drove that, to be honest, because that helped raise your voice, raise Brendan's case. Yep. And people gave donations and that. That it happened, that's lovely. That it had to happen is terrible.
Exactly. That's it. It shouldn't. We shouldn't. Families like mine, we shouldn't have to fundraise. We shouldn't have to go to the press. I don't want to be in the press. I don't want to be in the media. I don't. But it's necessary. I happen to write. I happen to get some notice because of my writing, and in that way it's a good thing because I can help be a voice for others. I wish I didn't have to be though. I don't want to be a voice, or I wish I didn't have to be a voice, I should say, for either my family or any other families out there. We should have those services at the ready without having to beg and lay our private lives bare for the public.
Well, ratification brings another headache for the government, and then you can't have...
I don't feel sorry for them.
But the headache is that you have to stop handing this over to charities.
Yeah,
and that's the big change that will have to come. It's now the state's responsibility, not a charity's responsibility. I mean, I'm presuming they will ratify in the next 24, 36 hours that they're going to ratify. Then the state is obliged to provide the services, not charities. That's a long time coming in this country. If you're not what they call a producer, somebody who's not producing for them, or know, a plus to the GDP figure, they've always farmed it out to charity.
They may just continue to do that and send that additional funding to charities now, to help provide this service or whatever, like respite or whatever.
But it's putting a layer between them and the responsibility that they have under ratification then. They're farming it out.
I actually don't like that model where the government might give money to a charity and then first of all, I think there's another subject, another can of worms here, but with charities and the regulation of charities and the misuse of funds, that concerns me a great deal.
Well, I mean, the simple solution is the state takes on its own responsibility.
Yes, and the money has to then be ring-fenced as well for specific disability services or caring services or that.
It's across the board. It's when you have Owen Murphy come out and say, in regards housing, that Peter McVerry, he referred to the Peter McVerry Trust as our partners and our service provider.
Yes.
Using the word service provider and roping that in, that is actually, as you say, Martin, it's not even putting a layer between you, it's actually outsourcing your responsibility.
Yeah.
Okay? So it's saying, well, what we did is we wrote a check. Now, again, comes back to making people look that this is fiscally irresponsible, because we're paying out income tax, we're paying out PRSI, we're paying universal social charge, we're paying all of these things. And what the state are doing with them in the meantime is actually is choosing the most expensive vehicle to actually provide services, because they don't do it themselves. So it's more expensive to create a third layer, it's more expensive to create bureaucracy, it's more expensive to do all of this machinery that has to grow up. We had Anthony Flynn on the podcast and he spoke about the industry around homelessness. Anthony, the guys in the inner city helping homelessness, these are volunteers, they're out there on the front line, and for the state to call these people our partners and service providers is just tantamount to incitement in my eyes, because these people are not your service provider. They're actually doing they're doing your job.
But the same has happened with carers and with help for carers, in that it has all been farmed out to the private sector. It's now what they call the grey economy, where you don't know who's employees, who's self-employed. It's a mess. It's a mess, and those who need the services are suffering, getting a half hour now where they could have got a day 5-6 years ago, and the pressure is being piled and piled on carers. How do you find that with the respite care? Are you getting any respite at all?
I was going to say, what respite?
Yeah.
I haven't had any in-home respite since last July. When I lived in Kilkenny, it was allotted 20 hours a month. And so the way I split it up was 5 hours every Saturday.
To give yourself a break.
Yeah, and generally to spend with my other son Declan, and little
and
bit
there's
of
not a lot you
time
can do.
there.
5 hours is not a lot. A movie.
No,
and a
not
cup
at
of
all.
coffee.
And that was about it. That was literally it. And so it wasn't a break for me. It wasn't recharging, which is what respite's supposed to be about. When I lived in Kildare, I had it for a few months, but the problem was the HSE looked at it and said, look, Brendan needs 2 people to care for him. because his care needs are so profound. So they said we can't afford 2 nurses, and I said, look, why don't you do it? You know, is kind of through dialogue. I said, look, how about a nurse and a care assistant? And they said, yes, but we're cutting your hours down to 8. No.
So you need more care, so we'll provide more care, but less of it.
Yes, because we're not going to increase the funding, so we're going to cut you down to 8 hours. So that happened for a little while, but then it stopped. The nurse that I did have coming was coming from Carlow all the way up till North Kildare, because that was the only one they could find that could do the job. But then she left the home health care agency that was providing the care, so that just stopped, and the agency didn't have anything else, or another nurse that could or would do the work. I had 2 nurses come out to basically interview, meet Brendan, that kind of thing. One, I think she nearly ran out. Oh, I can't do this, you know. So then it's okay for then the HSE or the government or whomever to leave a lone parent carer alone caring for a severely disabled with a child with profound care needs alone, yet they had deemed him requiring 2 people to care for him at one time.
Oh, it's like we can't provide you what you need, so we'll provide you with nothing at all.
Yes.
It's worse than that, isn't it? It's worse than that, because what it is, it's an actual, and it's something we're gonna come on to now in a second. But it's about I'm saying to you, you do all of this work, the work of 2 people, we deem it.
Yes.
You do the work of 2 people, and we're going to just say, well, look, we'll give you 8 hours or whatever the equivalent is, and sadly it's the same cake, but we've given you a smaller slice of it now, as opposed to because there's no other layers. Yeah, because I remember it's not so long ago, Tracy, you were talking, and you continue to talk about the things like the Colorado, the model that where carers were actually I'm gonna use the word, not even going to say paid. There was more dignity in it, because it was paid work. Mm-hmm. That gives you dignity, that gives you freedom, and that gives you, so in a way our model denies dignity. Do you want to explain
Absolutely.
that?
Yeah, it's a great model programme. Maybe I should start off by saying it actually saves the state money as well. But what it does for the care then, the care is, and it's a voluntary programme. You don't have to do this if you don't want to, right? And I think it should be the same here. Get trained as a certified nursing assistant, a CNA. Get hired then once you pass the test, obviously the state test, and you become registered, certified. Get hired by a home nursing agency as a CNA, nursing assistant, for your disabled family member. You have a nursing supervisor, comes in, evaluates your situation. You get paid based on the level of care you're providing, the care duties, and the time, the length of duties. Now, you can't get paid 24/7 because, let's face it, that wouldn't be, we'd be millions. But like, for example, 7 days a week, maybe 7 to 8 hours. Frankly, when I lived in Colorado, that is what I got. Because he is at the top end of care needs. But what this model does is it provides the carer with, one, an income, an actual pensionable income. Now, in the States, depending on your employer, it also provided health insurance.
Yes, yeah.
Again, it was pensionable, so you were saving into a retirement plan, something that we don't have here at the moment. As well, being employed, yes, there's the whole mental health aspect of feeling like you're actually worth something. Your time is and your effort, your
Well,
blood, sweat and tears is actually going into something that is tangible and that will not mean something. Of course what you're doing means something, but it will result in something at the end of the day, i.e. a paycheck that is far more than welfare is. Again, having that retirement that's accruing, so you know that at the end of the day when it happens, you're not going to be left slammed onto the ground with nothing. And it also enables you then to obtain credit. Do you need to buy that wheelchair accessible vehicle? Oh, you want to buy a house? Look, you're actually employed and you've been with this employer for how long? Oh, that's great. You can actually apply for a mortgage because you're employed. You're not relegated to being a social welfare recipient, which, let's face it, not only does it not give you the buying power, there is a stigma to it. You know, I can't walk into a bank and go, but look, really, I have a master's degree. I had a profession. I'm a well-educated person. I'm a decent person, but I had to leave my profession behind because I'm caring for my son. Yeah, social welfare. Will you please let me take a loan out so I can buy a house? Then nobody's going to look at that.
Well, there's no recognition of your service to the state, and it is a service to your family member, but it is also a service to the state. You are providing a service that the state should be providing.
Saves them billions per year. I forget the figure, but I think Family Cares Ireland has that figure.
Yeah, and you know, without some sort of formalisation of the situation, they're not recognising the service. And I know that's across the board for all people who are dealing with family members with a disability. And also there is no future pathway for what happens with any child with a disability. You don't know where that child is going to be at 10, at 20, at 40. And I know the big fear for most people with a family member with a disability is what happens after they're gone. And that should be, everybody should know this. This should be something you automatically know that when you're not here, your child is going to be cared for in a structured environment.
Yeah.
But in fact, nobody actually knows. There is no pathway to this.
There isn't. And the other members of Profound Ireland that are on it with me, the three of them have adult disabled children, and that I know is their primary concern.
Yeah.
I'm in a different boat from them, but as far as their situation, they, like Johanna, she has a child in her 30s now. What is going to happen? The HSE keeps telling them, or the government should say, keeps telling them it will be, they'll go into care, your child will be all right once you're gone, don't worry. How can we not worry? Are you kidding me? The government doesn't even know what they're doing when it comes to currently saying they're going to deinstitutionalise and put everybody in the community. Some of our disabled children, be they adult or minors, would not suit in a community setting. Again, that's another area, but every case, every child, every situation needs to be looked at on an individual basis. We can't have one solution for everybody. It's just not going to work.
But we can offer, rewind the clock back 4 months ago when we started doing these podcasts and asked me this question, and I'd think as a banker, and I would think in terms of this is how you come into me and you present for the loan, as you said, and I'd say, yeah, that's all very well and fair play to you, you're a great mother and all, but don't let the door hit you on the way out at the end of it all.
Yes, I was not happy with your answer, I have to say.
Full disclosure, I didn't hit her with the door.
That's because it was a DM on Twitter.
But the truth of it is, like we've spoken to Owen O'Brien. I was very good when he turned around and we spoke about the housing issue, and he said travellers and people with disabilities always get left out of the conversation. They said he turned around and he said, we talked about the safety net if something like happened. He said, we can do so much better than the safety net. He said, we need to have a safety net, but my God, if that's the level of our ambition, we're not even thinking about it. And then we had Mel Reynolds, who said we need to get over our moral hazard prejudice, which is what it is.
Yeah, and it is. Well, you know, there's a financial illiteracy or an economic illiteracy to Fine Gael, in that the solutions to solve the housing crisis are cheaper than the non-solutions that they're using at the moment. It actually makes the money in the taxpayer's pocket over 10 years will be more if you do the right thing. If you do what you're doing now and just pile it all into HAP, it's the most expensive model with no return. It's simply a transfer of wealth from the taxpayer to a certain sector of society.
It is. I'm in, after over a year of looking for a rental because social housing waitlists, even as a priority with Brendan's condition, are years long, right? Finally found this house that we're sitting in now, and I am availing of HAP finally. HAP is paying €1,050 per month. Now, I'm not ungrateful, trust me. I am extremely grateful.
This.
Having said that, could that 1,050 not be put into a permanent, secure, lifetime home?
Well, I just
that I could actually modify with that ceiling track hoist system that we were talking about earlier, off air there when I was showing you the wet room for Brendan. Did you know that's actually a load of money? 1,050 per month.
Tony's the guy to ask. Tony, 1,000 a month over 30 years. What price range house are you looking at for that?
Well, it depends. Well, where we're sitting, you know as well as I do, if you can build a 3-bedroom house for €191,000, and you can say that the state can borrow at near zero interest rates, and the state are introducing an affordable mortgage scheme that they're going to lend to people at 2.5%. So at those sort of levels, the mortgage repayment would be less than what your HAP payment is currently.
Just say that again, Tony, please.
So that
everybody gets.
So let's imagine it was if you multiplied it out by the term, if you multiply by the rate divided by 12, give you a 12-month average. You're looking at an interest repayment of somewhere in the region of about £630, right?
Yeah.
So you add on your capital that you chip away every month, and you're still maybe coming in somewhere £200 or less than what you're paying out in HAP, and that's every month for the life of the person. The state then actually can. So the state could do it two ways. The state could purchase the property, and you could then buy it from them.
Yes.
Okay. Or the state could give you a lending facility that actually creates a fund that will lend to people with a carer's payment, and we call it a payment. Let's start calling it an allowance, or let's get that mindset. And again, it's about me turning around and saying, moral hazard actually can be just prejudice, because people just think, we don't want that.
Now, I agree with you. So it's cheaper to actually buy the house than to pay HAP. Now, that's the first economic illiteracy of Fine Gael. And secondly, as the people who've had previously on the pod explained, your care at the end of your life is dependent upon having a home.
Right.
So if you own that home, then you are handing on that security to your child. It gives you that avenue within the model that this government likes to use. In home ownership provides your security blanket for your old age.
And unfortunately, both of my parents have long passed away, so I can't ask for a loan of 30 grand.
But you could theoretically be paying £800 for this house on a fixed mortgage rate to the state. You're saving them money, by not being on HAP, and then longer term you're going to save money because this house is then the provider for your child's care in their future.
Not even that, but it gives security of peace of mind, which is one thing we just discussed.
Absolutely. What happens if after 12 months?
More importantly, after the 12 months,
I lose the lease.
Security of tenure. Because
then what?
Because we talk security of tenure here, and you talk about people who are coming towards retirement age in Ireland, and they don't own a home, and then their salary goes from $2,500 a month down to the state pension, and they may not have a private pension, and rents ain't going to turn around.
No.
The landlord ain't going to say to them, listen, you know what, your salary's been cut by over 150%, sure, I'll take that cut in my rent. That's something that we haven't addressed. It's there's no security of tenure, there's no proper our rent controls, our rent pressure zones have created an upward only rental review where so it's a target. I've got to get my 4% pay rent, even though inflation has been zero. I saw something quite. I know, Martin, you were talking to Orla Hegarty the last couple of days over some of the stuff, and we'll go to bogus self-employment on another day. But there was an interesting thing where she said that the Construction Industry Federation were saying that the cost of construction has stayed level since 2007.
That's right, it's been static.
It's been static for over a decade. That's because there was no real wage growth. That's because of things like the other contracts. And now, Martin, I don't want to broaden that up today, but I want to bring into play that if that's level and rents are going up by 6%, 8%,
and building costs are. I mean, house price costs are going up, and it's not.
But they're going up. They're being driven by the land
prices. Yeah.
Well, on that, somewhat on that note, and Tony, I know this is what we were talking about earlier, like a number of months ago when I asked you about that loan. So county councils.
Just kind of keep kicking me.
I am. You just got to get a bit closer. So county councils, I don't know if they all do, but you know that. But when they offer those low interest mortgage loans to people that are on the housing list, such as myself, I don't qualify to apply even for a county council mortgage, that low interest mortgage loan, even though I'm on the housing list, because my social welfare, again being relegated to social welfare, isn't counted as income. Yet it is counted as income when they formulate repayments to the council. Well, first of all, I think there's a bit of an issue there. How can one be one and one not for the other, be income? And that's why we have that lawsuit that we were talking about earlier going on. Not we as in me, but we as somebody else there. Currently in the courts where carers allowance is being considered as income when maybe it shouldn't be. So it'll be interesting to see how that case comes out. But I wanted to say, so they consider I get half carers and I get lone parent. They consider that as income. As a result, I pay back a couple hundred a month in rent, plus because the rent was more than what HAP will cover here.
Yes.
I pay an additional amount to the landlord. Now, if I can afford to do that, why can I not afford a low interest mortgage loan?
Well, the other thing that's to be said about when we're talking these amounts of money, we're not talking huge amounts of money here. And there was a recent report that put carers and lone parents in Ireland are worse off than 11 other EU countries. Am I right about this? And
it was lone parents and the disabled. So, in here I'm setting a lone parent over a disabled child. And I know Regina Doherty is going to make a statement about that at some stage today, probably as we're recording this. So I'll be curious to see what she has to say there. I know I've replied to it and to her on Twitter. But look, at the end of the day, we have to be secure in our housing
situation. You have to.
I can't, even though this house has a wet room, it does have issues that do need modified, and I can't do it because I don't own the house. Another issue is, and look, Brendan is palliative. He has a life-limiting condition. I'm not going to be, barring, God forbid, an early departure on my part, I'm not going to be one of those carers that is worrying about what happens to my son after I go. And I know I wrote a piece about this before, but for my situation, one reason other than wanting that security of having a lifetime, forever home, is that I want to build memories in that home while we have, we being me and Declan, my other son, while we have Brendan in our lives. I want to, in the years to come, be able to walk into a room with Declan and remember that Christmas over there in the corner where the tree was, or when we had him out in the back garden and he was laughing at the birds. And I'm not going to have that in a rental house, because how long am I going to be able to keep Hap in this rental house once he goes?
But
I get cares for 12 weeks after he departs.
Those who make these decisions, and it's a good point, those who make the decisions, the Owen Murphys, the Leo Varadkars who grew up out in Castleknock, they can't put themselves in your shoes of precarious living. They have no idea, and it's not just precarious with money, it's precarious with food, it's precarious with travel, and it's most precarious with building a family life. How do you build a stable family life when 12 months down the road, and moving from one place to the other, second most stressful thing in your life that you can do?
I'm still reeling, frankly, having moved 2 weeks ago, and Declan, my other son, having to change schools again. He's going through such a hard time, and I'm not going to say too much personally about it, but he's 9. He needs security. He needs a house that he is going to grow up in. That's it. I mean, forever. And like I said, have those memories of Brendan in that house to carry on. It's going to be hard enough that we're going to lose Brendan someday, some year. God, do we have to lose everything else as well? I heard Leo Varadkar, I think it was last month at some point, discussing what Fine Gael has done. And it was in the Dáil. Yeah, I watch Oireachtas TV. I'm one of those people. And I remember him saying, but we've extended the CARES payment to go 12 weeks now after losing the person you're caring for. I couldn't repeat what I said, but let me tell you what, a lot of F-bombs were dropped. 12 weeks. Do you know how fast that's going to fly when you're on your knees in devastating grief, having lost your firstborn?
But they don't really have a concept of the difficulties. And I've seen in the last few weeks, you've had some very distinguished guests coming up to visit you and have a cup of tea, and I suppose they all had the nice shortbread biscuits that were. Or did you leave the special double chocolate coated biscuits for our Jar? Is that what you did?
No, they brought the biscuits.
Oh, did they bring the biscuits?
Yeah, and little prezzies for the boys.
Oh,
so
nice.
It was
nice.
It's
very
great.
Generous,
Gerry was here with one of the local Sinn Féin councillors and then his assistant as well, discussing issues for Brendan. So they were my first guests in the house. It was great. I only have distinguished visitors.
With the riff-raffer here now.
You've two
Talk about going from up to down, like you couldn't get any worse.
Okay, no.
And when we were driving in, it's actually quite the snow. There's little snow flurries here, saying we were driving in. The mountains, they're Mourne Mountains.
Well, if you're looking up and you're going out towards Carlingford out that direction, it's quite a view. Yeah,
it's gorgeous.
It's lovely. It's lovely, and I used to live in Dundalk. When I first moved to Ireland, the blowing that I am, was 1995, and it was Dundalk. So it's coming back.
So when did you move to Ireland though?
Yeah.
I'll smack him, everybody, after we go off air.
I think I'm going to have to put Tony in a boot on the way out.
I can get that sorted for you, Martin.
You want to take care of him.
It's quite a few years since I was in Dundalk. It is, and I feel like I should end every sentence with Dundalk. Hey, I feel I should do it.
No, it's good to be back. You know, sure, we'll settle here, and this will be it. You know, not sure about how long, like we were talking about in this house, because it is a rental and it is half, you know, so we'll see. But I have to be, you know, I've told Declan, like, we won't move again.
So you're happy enough to call Dundalk home.
I used to, like I said, for a couple of years in the mid to late 90s, when I first moved here and I worked as a journalist. God, that was another life, wasn't it?
But how do you cope in Dundalk, like, without Dublin?
Without Dublin? What's that? Dublin?
When you need stuff and you have to go to town, like we go to town to get stuff.
You live in Ashbourne, you're not in Dublin.
I know, that's Ashbourne.
Look, it's
where's that?
You've one road and
we're closer than Balbriggan, we're closer than Swords. It's more Dublin.
He's writing the new tourist brochure for Ashbourne.
Ashbourne. See us on your way to Tato Park. You have to pass through. Yeah.
Yeah, no, what do you mean? I have everything I need right down the road.
Well, isn't that good though? Like Dundalk is
fantastic.
that sort of town, the amenity. And I know you have had, you're only here 2 weeks, and you simply haven't been outside the door yet.
I haven't, because Brendan is still bedridden. Tomorrow is 100 days of him being bedridden with this pressure sore. The only time he's been able to get out of bed in the last 100 days is for me to take him to respite down into Dublin, that place. Or when we moved up here, and every time I have to put him in his wheelchair and go for that drive, his pressure sore gets worse. So I'm hesitant to even take him to respite at this stage, and I may or may not cancel it because he has another round 2 nights in a couple of weeks. But you know, I do want to end, you know, on a positive note in saying, I did first move here back in 1995, you know, not only to Dundalk where we're at now, but to Ireland. And, you know, I think a mutual friend of all of ours, Mick Call, he says on a lot of his tweets now, we're better than this.
We are.
Right?
Better than this,
And we are better than this. And everything we've discussed today, you know, one reason why Ireland became my home and I fell in love with Ireland 20-some, you do the maths, 23 years ago when I first moved here, is because of the community and of the people, you know, and how things were and the support that the people give to those that need support, whether they ask for it or not. It has changed, but I do think, like Mick says, we're better than this and we can get it back. You know, and we can keep that going, and we have to. And that's why I advocate as hard as I do, and will continue to do so, even though I may not want to, and I'm exhausted sometimes, or all the time really. You know, we have to do it. If we don't look out for each other, who's going to do it?
Well, we myself, and I know Tony echoes this, we wish you all the very best in Dundalk, and we hope that it's a place you can settle, and we hope when the summer rolls around that there is a chance to actually get out and have some life outside of the 4 walls. We hope that.
So.
Yeah, you know, I understand that you're stuck in the 4 walls. I understand that, and I do get that. I do get that. So we do. We wish you the very best, and we'd like to thank Dundalk for allowing Tony in.
He may not make it out though.
There's not a town
Look, he can't even talk.
I'm nervous now. I'm looking around, and it seems to be getting darker outside.
I know. It was nice to visit Dundalk. It's such a long time since I was here, and I do. It's nice to visit.
You know, Tracy, thanks so much. It's we covered a lot here today, and we've even discussed some things that are a long time developing. And I think you're right. I think we are better than this. I think there are solutions to some of these things. It's just
there absolutely are solutions.
Economically viable, economically literate solutions instead of this.
And they're economically viable and they're compassionate. and it can give people dignity. And if you can give people dignity, well, you know, that's, you know, the security of that is you can't really put a price on that either.
I mean, we have to look at the society we're in and the government we have, and look, if it makes economic sense to do it, and it's the best economic sense or the best way to deal with the situation, then why arse around doing anything else? And it's that simple.
Yeah,
well, the people are what make a society, and if the government don't tend to the needs of the people and making sure that they are prospering and cared for and healthy and educated and have opportunity for self-development and for growth and to thrive in their lives, then there is no society.
Yeah, agreed.
It's all about the people.
Okay, guys, thanks so much. Listen, we say it all the time. Please hit subscribe, tell your friends, share it everywhere you can, because we've no budget for this. We're just literally sitting here, iPad, little microphone pointing up at the sky. Do keep an eye on echochamberpod.com to find all our previous podcasts, and I'm thinking Martin might actually write something.
Yeah, I'm doing a little bit now over the next few days. I'll be sticking it in on the website.
And you can send us an email to echochamberpod@gmail.com or follow us on Echo Chambers Pod. Thanks again. Thanks for listening, folks.